This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
You are watching Frankly Speaking Sports, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Make sure to join today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank, and what a great show we have for you today on this Monday evening. We are coming to you on several different platforms, from Northeast Streaming Sports to Tobacco Road Sports Radio. We are on all sorts of Facebook networks, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and coming January 1st, we will even have our own Roku channel from Northeast Streaming Sports that'll have our show on for you. So a lot of great things happening with us. For all of you fans joining from different platforms, do me a favor, it takes 1 second. Just go ahead and hit that share button. By hitting that share button, you give everybody else a chance to watch this terrific show, just like you're getting that opportunity. And I would surely appreciate it. A reminder, we have a comment section here. Hit the comment section. If you want to comment on anything pertaining tonight, you know, a good part of our show is on the Carolina Panthers and their tough loss yesterday to the Atlanta Falcons. But we will also have an interview later in about 30 minutes with former heavyweight boxing championship contender Gerry Cooney. You won't want to miss that. For all of you folks out there that are definitely around my age, you'll definitely remember Gerry Cooney. What a great boxer he was. What a great power left-handed punch. Larry Holmes calls it the toughest, hardest left-handed punch he's ever seen, and we'll have that interview in about 30 minutes. But let's go ahead. Let's get started with the show right away here, folks. Tough loss yesterday. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. The fans are getting frustrated. They're getting discouraged. They're getting upset. They're even looking for someone to blame. And yesterday, unfortunately, the result of this game was no different as the Falcons defeated the Panthers 29-21. When you started this game and you looked at this game, Jeff Nixon calling plays for the very first time. I thought Jeff did a good job calling the plays. Unfortunately, the players on the field did not execute them up to 100%. So those plays did not necessarily go as planned. Offense looked terrible. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I hear people out there saying, well, Cam looked great on the first drive. Okay, that's one drive. Cam looked good in the third quarter, the first drive. Okay, that's 2 drives. Guys, if any of you out there thought Cam looked good yesterday, you are just living in a fairy tale land. I mean, I just don't understand the people. I understand that Cam is a big figure here in the Carolina area. He did a great job the first time around. But people and fans and supporters of the Carolina Panthers are going to need to wake up and realize that this is not the same Cam Newton he was the first time around. Now, some of you may be upset at that, but it's a fact. I don't feed you no BS on this show, and I won't start doing it. I'm going to tell you like it is, and you're either going to like it or you're not going to like it, but you're going to understand that everything I'm saying is coming as the truth. The offense had 3 turnovers, 2 of them by Cam Newton that led to 2 scores by the Atlanta Falcons. That is not good. One was a pick 6. There was several footballs that Cam threw that the receivers actually made nice catches on. They were up high or down low. They were not very accurate. Cam is missing it, folks. He's not there right now. I mean, give the Falcons also third down. He was 4 of 11 on third downs, 1 of 3 on fourth downs. That is not a formula to win in the NFL. The Falcons, meanwhile, was 7 for 14 on third downs, 2 of 3 on fourth downs. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, our defense did not play a great game yesterday. I mean, they continue to have trouble against the runs. He definitely, the defense is having trouble. And, people are looking for a reason. They're looking for an excuse. They're looking, why is this defense all of a sudden suffering? Sometimes, folks, there doesn't have to be an excuse for something. And we got to get away from making excuses. It's okay to just say they have not been playing well. You go back, you look at the tape, you see if there's things that could have been corrected. Maybe you were playing the wrong type of defense at a certain time. But at the end of the day, this defense still has the ability to be good. They just have not been playing well. The entire team is to blame for this loss. The Falcons had time of possession, 34 minutes, 36 seconds, while the Panthers, 25 minutes, 24 seconds. It's the 5th straight loss for the Panthers at home this year. But I want to break things down because a lot of talk in this area, a lot of the media people, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on TV, whether it's in the newspapers, and I'm not going to go ahead and specify who's saying what. At the end of the day, I have the uttermost respect for all the media people that do their job in the Charlotte area. And I know they're all looking for reasons, but some of them are very off base with their analysis of what's happening with this team. And I'm going to go ahead, folks, and tell you what's going on. First of all, we talk about Cam Newton, okay? Led to 2 turnovers that led to 2 Falcon scores yesterday. Cam Newton is not the same Cam Newton he was. He is not. Okay, there is a reason he did not do very well last year in New England, and there's a great reason why New England is doing well this year at the top of their division because of the quarterback they have in place right now. Now, once again, I respect everything that Cam has done for the Charlotte area, for the Carolina Panthers, but folks, you're going to have to look in the mirror and understand and face the fact that Cam Newton is not a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. And, whether you like it or not, it's the truth, okay? He is not playing up to par. He's now been with the team over 4 weeks. There's no excuses. He's a veteran. He knows what to do with the football, and yet he is not doing it, okay? Everybody is so easy to blame Sam Darnold or blame P.J. Walker or blame Teddy Bridgewater, okay? The end of the day, you have to treat Cam the same way, and Cam is not the answer. I will say it again. Cam is not the answer. Now, I'm not saying that we have a bunch of quarterbacks on this team that are the answer. Not saying Matt Barkley is the answer. Not saying P.J. Walker is the answer. Okay, but at the end of the day right now, you have to start the quarterback that gives you the best chance of winning. Automatically, when P.J. Walker came in yesterday, everybody in the world wanted P.J. to screw up so that they can still be a Cam fan. That's wrong. That's completely wrong. Okay, yes, PJ made an interception right before with the 2-minute offense, but I thought overall PJ Walker has done a good, satisfactory job for the Panthers. Is he a starting quarterback? I never said that. Okay, does he give you a better chance of winning than Cam? We can argue that. Okay, but at the end of the day, you're asking PJ Walker to come in the middle of a game, ice cold, and to go ahead and get on a hot streak and win the game for you. I thought PJ Walker's throws, except for that interception, were much better than Cam's yesterday. I did not say that PJ Walker should start, but I did say PJ Walker, when he did start in that Arizona game, looked terrific. And everybody gives Cam the credit for getting the 2 touchdowns, but let's not forget the guy that brought him from the 20 down to the other 20 along the way to give Cam that opportunity. Yesterday, he brings him back late with when he starts connecting with his old buddy Robbie Anderson. Okay, there are opportunities out there. If P.J. Walker can hit Robbie Anderson, then Cam Newton should be able to. Cam Newton is through. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. And some of you may like this and some of you may like it not. And a lot of people are saying, well, why? 2 weeks from now, we're hearing Sam Darnold's coming back. Who should be the starting quarterback? If any of you believe that Cam Newton should be the starting quarterback over Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold comes back, you're fools. I'll look directly at you and tell you you don't know crap about football. And I'll explain why. If I'm going to make a statement like that, I'm going to definitely explain why. And let me explain why to you folks. Okay? Sam Darnold's been out. Okay, a couple of weeks now, 4 weeks, whatever the amount of weeks are. If Cam Newton comes in and does an unbelievable job and starts winning ball games, then there is no question on who should be the starting quarterback. But Cam Newton has done nothing to take away the starting position from Sam Darnold. When Sam Darnold comes back, it is his job. He is the starting quarterback on this team unless somebody performed up to a level that was better than him and deserves to start. And no one right now has done that, okay? And I'll tell you right now, if you have to weigh the options and say which one has done a better job coming close, it is not Cam Newton, okay? I understand you all love Cam Newton, but folks, face the facts, okay? This game that we lost yesterday was not all on Cam Newton. Some of it was. It was a team loss. You win together, you lose together. But he did not do anything yesterday to help his team win. And hopefully that makes sense to you all, okay? You're going to have to forget about Cam Newton. If you want to start winning ball games and you want to start becoming a playoff team, we have to fill that position with the right guy. Now, no way, shape, or form am I saying Sam Darnold should be the starting quarterback next season. I said based on what we have now and based on performance, nobody has done anything to take the job away from Sam Darnold. And I don't think anybody out there can argue with me with that. For all of you folks listening, please go ahead and hit your share button for me and share this to your friends. And I'd love to get some comments on if anyone disagrees with me. I mean, that's okay. And, we just had a folks, we're going to show some of the messages. Okay. And then the other one is, and this is a good segue. So I want to thank Jimmy for going ahead and watching our show tonight. Thank you so much, my friend. We love having you. We love having you leave comments. But I'm going to talk about the coach right now, Jimmy, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you so much. But what is Matt's rule with this team? Okay, what is his tenure like? Do they keep Matt Rule and do they not? I'm going to tell you right now, folks, it's not always about getting rid of the coach. Okay, Matt has never coached in the NFL, and you all folks all know what I think of Matt Rule. If you have listened to my show from day one, from preseason, I was not crazy about him. I even made that comment that I don't think he has, before the year started, I don't think he holds people accountable enough. He doesn't look like a guy that likes to make in-game adjustments and correct things like you should. If you wanted to see a guy, and I don't know how many of you got to watch that Buffalo Bills game yesterday. Sean McDermott coaching people on the sidelines through that game for the Buffalo Bills, and them almost coming back and beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's how a coach should coach. Making adjustments, in-game coaching, in-game adjustments. That's what you need to do. There's only one way now, folks. I would say that you definitely need to get rid of Matt Rule before or at the end of the year. First of all, there's no reason to get rid of him before then if you are going to get rid of him. But at the end of the day, the only way I think you do is if he lost the locker room. If the players don't trust him, if the players don't believe in him, and the players just don't like playing for him, then you got to ask yourself a question. What do we do here? You obviously got to make a change. But otherwise, you got to understand, coaching and rebuilding a team is a process. We all want it done overnight. Matt Rule has been successful everywhere it's been, but he's never coached in the NFL. Okay, you just signed a guy to whatever, 7 or 9 year contract. I don't think the answer is to get rid of a guy after 2 years. I think you wait 1 more year. And as much as you're not like that, but give it time, and there's a couple of things that Matt has to correct. He made this statement about Phil Snow. The players don't want to listen to him. Well, Matt Rule, if that's the case, then maybe you do need to go because you're not holding your players accountable enough to listen to coaches. They got to know who the bosses are, who's in charge, and who makes the decision on that team. And if there's any questions about that, then he needs to go. Now, I'm not saying Matt Rule should stay, but if you're going to replace Matt Rule, it's kind of like the quarterback position. If you're going to replace someone, you need to replace them with someone who is better than what you already have. Okay? If somebody comes along and there's an opportunity to swoop up a coach that is better than Matt Rule, you might want to consider it. If you think Matt Rule has lost this locker room, you need to make a change. Otherwise, you need to let it play out and see during year 3 how it all works out. But if Matt can't and this is a conversation that David and Scott, David Tepper and Scott Fitterer need to have at the end of the season with Matt is, are you able to hold this team accountable? Are you able to hold your coaches accountable? Are the coaches able to hold your players accountable? If any of those questions have a no answer to it, it's time to make a change. Okay? If it's just a process and it needs another year, then you might want to think about it. Okay? If you can't find anyone better. but you're not in the business to hire a coach for 9 years and then get rid of him after 2 years. Okay? You hired him because of a certain reason. If that reason is not there, then you need to make decisions accordingly. All right, I'm looking at this. Let's go ahead and look at some of the comments we got. Here's one. They won't fire him. He got a 6-year deal for big money. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that if they find out that he can't hold people accountable and he's losing the locker room, they will fire him. Okay. Otherwise, that's good. Not sure what some of these other things mean, but I'm going to tell you who's the one. If you really, I don't like putting blame on people. I think, the player's job is to execute. The coach's job is to come up, prepare the guys, have them execute, and get them prepared for the game. But at the end of the day, a name that's not being mentioned and not being held accountable is Scott Fitterer. Okay, where does his role come about in this disastrous year? Okay, he's the one that does the draft and decides which players he takes. Right now, if you look at this offensive line, it's been a problem even before the season started, folks. And yet, he has not done a damn thing yet to correct it. Maybe your problem isn't all coaching. Maybe it isn't all execution. Maybe it's about player analyzation and deciding which players need to be on the team and which players don't need to be on the team. And right now, if Scott Fitterer ain't smart to do that, it doesn't matter who the hell you bring in as a coach if you can't get the right players to gel together. And right now, guys, it is no secret that our offensive line does need help. The only two guys that I would probably keep and risk keeping after this year is over on the offensive line is Moton and Christensen. Okay, Taylor Moton and Brady Christensen. Other than that, the hell with the rest of them. You need to go ahead and build with at least 3 more. Your number 1 pick in the draft, I don't care what order it is, should not be a quarterback, because it doesn't matter which damn quarterback is behind center if you can't protect them. You need to get the best offensive lineman that is available at the number 1 pick that you get and swoop them up. Then you need to go after either some in the later rounds when you have picks or through free agency. You have to make that line strong up. You have to build the wall before you get the quarterback behind the wall. And it doesn't matter if you have Cam Newton, PJ Walker, Matt Barkley, Sam Darnold, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes. None of them will be successful until you go ahead and get an offensive line. Then you need to be out there looking at quarterbacks. Who's available? The problem is they screwed up so bad that our cap situation, believe we only have $29,000 right now in cap space, is going to have to be finagled with, and you might have to give some people up and get rid of some of these contracts in order to build this team. And that's going to be something that they definitely need to do. As we look at, it's hard to see everybody's comments, so I'm trying to do that. Whoever decided to sign Cam should be fired now. Let me explain that to you. It was, it brought a lot of excitement. They did to bring Cam back, and I think more of that was more of a PR stunt to keep fans coming and keep fans excited. I find it hard to believe that Cam, they watched him the last year in New England. They watched films on him. Cam was brought here to add excitement to a fan base that needed something to excite them. And it has not worked out. It's okay. You tried, you failed. Now it's time to correct. Okay? It's time to correct it. But Scott Fitterer has to get out there, make some moves, make some adjustments, get the right players. And if Scott Fitterer can't do it, you're talking about Matt Rule losing his job. Maybe they should consider Scott Fitterer not being the right man for the GM job here in Carolina. And that's my thought on that, folks. But, it's a tough situation. It's frustrating. A lot of us are upset. But you got to remember something, folks. You're a Carolina Panther fan. You got to keep pounding. Eventually, this thing will get worked out. It'll get worked out. Okay? But until then, you got to stick together. Hopefully the people, David Tepper will get this thing right, put the right people in the administrative front office positions to make the right moves. But, guys, we have to build an offensive line before we think of anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, former heavyweight champion, you all know him if you're my age, Gerry Cooney. We did an interview about a month and a half ago with them. We're going to go ahead and play it right after we get back from these messages from our local stations. We'll be back right after this.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, the other day I'm looking around and I'm saying, I need to become part of a Carolina Panthers group that stays positive even in these tough times. And I'll tell you what, boy, have I found a group, the Carolina Panthers Den. It's on Facebook and you need to join today. This is a group that stays positive, has a good time, and interacts with a lot of other different Carolina Panthers fans. If you want to have a great time and talk about your team, encourage your team in a way that is done very professionally, then become a member of the Carolina Panthers Den on Facebook. Make sure to join today. Great honor, thrill, and pleasure to welcome in former heavyweight boxer Gerry Cooney. Gerry, how you doing today? Can you hear me?
What's cooking, Larry?
Good. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can. I'm hooked up here. Just going to turn this down a little bit. Okay. Is that better?
Well, thank you, first of all, very much for allowing us the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
No, let me tell you something, bro. I wish I could come through this camera right now and get you back my hands on you.
Yeah, I know. I tell you what, I had to move away from New York because of that, Gerry.
There you go. There you go. How's everything going, you guys? All right?
Yeah, it's going good. Gerry, let me ask you something. I want to start out. I mean, I've watched you. I had the pleasure of watching you your entire career, growing up in New York for the first 13 years of my life, living on Long Island, then moving to Massachusetts. How did you, a lot of people at a young age, they think about getting into football, they think about getting into baseball, basketball. How did you get into boxing?
My father always had a couple of pairs of gloves laying around, and we used to go out in the backyard and box around. And I used to carry gloves to school when I was, in ninth grade or something, and I'd box the kids at the school bus. And then later on, I remember going to the gym when I was 15 and a half, and I thought, let me box somebody. And I boxed this little Italian kid who had like 5 years experience, and he smacked me around the gym, and I threw the gloves off, and I went back home. And I went down in the basement again. I hit the bed, understanding that he was going to come at me. And then 3 days later, I went back to that gym and I asked if I could box that kid again. And he couldn't do that to me again. And that's how I, 6 months later, I went to the New York State Golden Glove Championships, and then I won the middleweight title. It was the largest tournament in the United States, and I had 7 fights. I had 5 knockouts, and I won the middleweight championship.
Now, Gerry, that February 15th, I'm going to bring you back in time, okay? 1977, your first paid bout was versus Billy Jackson. You won in the first round. I don't know if you remember that fight.
Sure.
You won it in the first round by a knockout. What was your being in that first fight, getting paid your first time? Do you remember leading up to that fight, the nerves and the feelings you had before and after the fight?
Well, I had some people also. My trainer, my amateur trainer, John Capianco, was a great trainer. And his kid was turning pro, Johnny Capianco. So I got to watch the excitement he had about turning pro and becoming a professional prize fighter. And then when it came time for me, my friends were going away to college to get educated. I didn't have that option. So boxing was the next avenue for me. I mean, I made it to I won the Gold Gloves at heavyweight division that year. I fought on the United States. Had 4 knockouts over in Europe. I came home, and they told me to stay in shape. The Russians were coming. So, I fought the 3rd-ranked Russian heavyweight champion and knocked him out dead in the first round, put him to sleep. And I got an opportunity to fight on the Olympic, the finals of the Olympic trials, which I didn't go to because my father was sick. And I told the president of the Olympic Committee that I couldn't make because my father was sick. That was 10%. So 90% was I didn't think I was good enough. What am I going to go make an ass of myself out there? And it's one of the biggest regrets of my life that I didn't take that opportunity. I probably might not be able to make it, but I could have had that experience. You understand, Larry?
Yeah, I understand. Now, let me ask you this. You bring up a great point. 10 years later, you're in the national spotlight. I mean, you're beating couple of one-time title challenges, Jimmy Young, Ron Lyle. When did you realize, Gerry, because you said you didn't go to the Olympics because you didn't think you were good enough. When did you, at what point of your career did you say, I think I can fight for the heavyweight championship?
Well, it's funny. I was fighting and I was knocking guys out left and right in the gym, training, in fights. And I grew up with a low self-esteem. My father was a raging alcoholic, and I learned a lot of negative emotions and never believed in myself. And thank God that that's not with me today. But I still had to fight. Once the bell rang, once they knocked on my door in their dressing room and said, "Cooney, you're next," I had to take that long walk from the dressing room to the ring. And once you hear the roar of the crowd, that's when you become magical. And you have a plan. And if that plan don't work, you make adjustments, and then you figure out how to get that guy. And I was pretty good at that. And I was always a big puncher. And so once I touched you, you could see the expression in the fighter's face changing.
Yeah, Larry Holmes said you had one of the hardest left-handed punches of any boxer he ever knew. Where did you learn that left-handed punch?
Larry, that's a great question. And, when I started out boxing, I went to the gym and everybody was fighting right-handed. I didn't get it. I'm left-handed. So they were supposed to turn me around to fight a righty, but I didn't know it. So I stayed left. I stayed a right-handed fighter stance. And that turned out to be a blessing because every time I jab, you figure you throw 100 jabs in a fight compared to about 20 right hands. Every time I jabbed, I was hitting with a solid jab, and it was a phenomenal power. Larry Holmes didn't even know it when we fought that I was a left-handed fighter. And so from right then in that moment, I felt like I was in charge. I felt like finally the first time in my life I was somebody. I remember going after every night I'd fight in the garden. I would go to the newsstand, and my picture seemed to be on the back page of the Daily News every day. And that's how I became somebody. And it helped me. Boxing helped me to express the anger, what was going on in my house. And then they put my picture in the paper, so it made me somebody. And that's how it fed me. And that's how I became a fighter.
How did you transition? I mean, you went from a boxer who didn't have yet a big following in the late 70s, and 10 years later, you're starting to fight well-named boxers or previous title challenges fighters. I mean, how was the transition from being somebody that wasn't famous to all of a sudden being on those tabloids, the New York Post, I mean, the Daily News? I remember them all, Newsday, all those papers.
I always had a great following from Huntington, Long Island, where I came from. It was about a 35-minute ride into the Garden. And back then, in them days, every preliminary fight was in the felt form, the small Garden. And then the finals were always held in the big Garden. And I got the chance to go to the finals 3 times. I won two championships. And so I had a big following of local kids, local families, and friends that came followed me in the gloves. And so that's how I got my start. And I wasn't really thinking anything about success or famous or anything like that. I was looking to save my life, to figure out what's next for me. What's the best avenue for me to go to get to where I want to go? I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a wife and kids. I had no idea. My friends went away to college. I was on my own at 15. I was living alone at 15 years old, and I had to find my way. And boxing was the way for me.
Yep, and you had a big, Smithtown, where I was from.
Oh, yeah.
You had a big follow. We were right down the road. We knew where the Huntington Townhouse was, of course, over there in Huntington.
It's so great. It's so great, Larry. I was put into the Long Island Hall of Fame. It was a very exciting time for me. And I had a lot of great moments. I made some mistakes. Listen, after the Norton fight, I knocked out Kenny Norton in 54 seconds of the first round. You think I would have thought to myself, well, I better get a good trainer, a good condition guy, nutrition guy, so I can be ready to fight for the championship. I started drinking that night and messing around, not taking care of myself, thinking I could handle it. And I found out years later that Larry Holmes never drank, never smoked, never took a drug through his whole career. And I was drinking at 12.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean, that fight before the Holmes fight, leading up to the Holmes fight, and I know Larry talks about it quite often, was he didn't like the way the fight turned out in the media, where he wanted it to be, he was fighting a great heavyweight challenger in Gerry Cooney. Mm-hmm. But he said he felt like it became more of a racial bout with white versus black. How did that affect you? I mean, it had to bother you to some degree, where, people were siding with each other over color rather than over content.
Listen, there is ignorance in the world. And I don't know who it was, Don King or whatever it was, used it as a promotional tact to raise money, to get money, to make more people angry and fight. It was a very tumultuous time. I mean, there was, Larry had his mailbox blown up. I used to get letters. So, it was a terrible time. And for me, I had 5 or 6 guys I grew up with who were in camp with me. And we were living out in Palm Springs and Las Vegas. We were eating turtle soup and lobster tails. So it didn't affect us. I don't know what was going on with everybody else, but as far as I was concerned, I'm living in Las Vegas for months. I'm living a dream. I grew up as a poor kid in Huntington, Long Island. It was like, I felt like Isthmus. You know what that is? You know what Isthmus is? Isthmus be my lucky day. That's what I was thinking about.
Well, I'll tell you what. And now we get to that fight. I have to ask you this because, first of all, you and Larry were friends before the fight, right?
No. We did not know each other.
You became friends?
I remember years before, when I first turned pro, I was like 20, and he came to Gleason's gym where I trained. And I remember bumping into him, and I tapped him on the shoulder. I told him who I was. And I said, listen, if you ever need someone to work with, I'd love to work with you. Now, I was playing games with him back then. That's how boxing is. You play chess with each other until the moment the bell rings. And he was a great champion. He was the top 2 or 3 fighters of all time. The greatest fighters of all time. And I got a chance to fight him for the heavyweight title with a little bit of experience, not the experience I needed, because I didn't sign with Don King. He kept me out of the picture. I didn't get a chance to fight those guys that I needed to prepare me, to give me better looks so I could be more experienced. So when the bell rang with Larry Holmes, had a better shot to win. I also want to tell you, Larry, that it's amazing in today's time. We just saw Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury have their trilogy, 3 fights in a row. We never had a second fight. We never had a third fight, but it merited having it done. I don't know why it didn't take place back then, but I learned so much in that fight with Larry Holmes. I was a way better fighter, 2 times the fighter I was after that experience, that loss in the 13th round. I found out about endurance. I found out how to train better. I grew up in the ring as a fighter from that experience that he gave me.
Yeah, do you look back now and do you regret not going with Don King?
No, I do not regret going with Don King. I regret going with my management. And they kind of sheltered me. They were looking for the big payday too. I needed experience. I needed to be ready when I fought Larry Holmes. It was the heavyweight championship of the world, the biggest prize in the world, as far as I was concerned. And I didn't get it. I knocked out Norton in 54 seconds. I knocked out Ron Lyle in one round. Jimmy Young, I knocked him out in 4 rounds. I didn't really get the tough guys I needed to give me that experience.
Now, what was a typical day of training for Gerry Cooney leading up to a fight?
Well, you get up first thing in the morning at 6:30, 6 o'clock, 5:30, and you go out and run anywhere between 3 and 6 miles. Up the mountains where there's a lot of hills. You come back and you do weight training for your stomach, for all your muscles and your punches come from your stomach. So you have a good core. You're better able to. I can get from point A to point B faster and quicker with more power. So we did a lot of work on the stomach. Then we'd go eat up and we'd rest. And I'd go back to the room and rest for a while. And then around 3 o'clock, I'd go to the gym. And I'd have 4, 5, or 6 sparring partners every day. And I was to work out with them every day. And I had to stay ahead of all of them. And, it's a great feeling that these guys, they have 5 sparring partners there. And while I'm boxing one guy, the other 4 are watching me make my mistakes. So that when they get in there, that's how you get better. That's how you develop as a fighter. Because you got to keep advancing. You got to keep getting better, staying ahead of those guys. And I was very good at that back then.
So what do you think of the Wilder Fury fight? What do you think of boxing today, Gerry? I mean, you got to understand, and this, the boxers back then, with the Ernie Shavers, Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Alexis Arguello, Aaron Pryor, and Boom Boom Mancini. I mean, we can go all day here. I mean, it's definitely, we had a lot more faith.
Larry Holmes.
Back then.
We did. And, I want to tell you something. There was a big lull in the fight game because I think the boxers and the public learned that the boxers were getting raped and robbed. They weren't getting their just due with paychecks. They were fighting their asses off, but they weren't getting the paydays. And I think that some of the promoters out there were ripping them off. And then boxing died out. A lot of those guys that would have became fighters went to football, basketball, baseball, soccer. And then, time passed, and obviously one guy I got to really applaud is Bob Arum. He's been in the game over 50 years, and he's done so many great things. I really love that guy. And then now, listen, we got Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, one of the best heavyweight fights we saw in such a long time. Could be fight of the year, could be knockout of the year. That's in all the division. The light heavyweight division is phenomenal. Welterweights, Canelo Alvarez at 168 is a phenom. Middleweight division, lightweight division, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney. You got so many great fighters in all the divisions. Now we got DAZN, we got Top Rank, we got PBC. So we have to get those guys to bring their fighters together so the fans here can see it.
Are they not marketing it correctly, Gerry?
No, I think they're doing a great job. I think that the pandemic hurt everybody a lot. And Barbarian really stood up there too and put the fights on. You had to stay in a bubble. And so we got to see some of the fights. But so many fights are waiting in the wings. And they're going to start appearing. And we're going to start to see some great fights. We got Showtime Shawnee Porter fighting Terrence Crawford in November. What a great fight that will be. We got just so many. We just saw Manny Pacquiao lose to Ugas. We just saw Anthony Joshua get schooled by by Alexander Usyk, who was a cruiserweight champion and a gold medal winner. He just, from pillar to post, he beat Anthony Joshua up. So it's great fights. We just have to I tell people, listen, on your computer screen, put on Boxing Scene and read a couple of stories every day and follow the guys. Let's get back in the game again. It is great game.
Yes, it is. Talk about your gym or your academy, Jerry. I know you're doing a lot. Talk about what you're doing for younger kids with boxing, and also talk about how the academy has helped you grow as a person as well.
Listen, I love to teach people, give them confidence. I've worked with a lot of kids who were bullied, a lot of kids that were picked on, and, accountants been picked on, and other people in the world that never had the courage to stand up for themselves. And I bring them into the gym, and they leave like 6 inches off the ground. They're learning something about themselves. They're learning self-confidence, and that I can do it, and that we can do anything we want as long as we get the help. As long as we ask the question, can you help me? There will always be somebody to help you, direct you, and to make you all you can be. And I had such success with it, and that it's not like it's all free. Like we help each other grow. Someone did it for me, I can do it for them, and then it gets passed on again. And that's the great gift about it. And I believe in charity work. I think everybody should do charity work, helping the less fortunate get to a better place. And I've been lucky and fortunate enough that through my whole career, I've got to be with some of the greatest athletes of all time: basketball, football, just all the sports, baseball, doing charity work for the less fortunate. And that's a big thing I stress for people to do.
That's awesome. Last question before I let you run, Jerry.
You sure you want to fight me?
I'm having second thoughts all of a sudden.
You see that there, bro?
Yeah, that left is gonna hurt me.
Trouble, bro. Trouble.
Hey, my dad was a lefty too.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was. So let me ask you this. If there's kids out there, because, parents have this fear, you know how that is. Just like now with football, we're getting hit in the head and all the stuff going on. What advice would you give to kids and their parents that would love to go into boxing, but maybe are afraid of their kids getting hurt at a young age?
Well, first of all, if you don't have to box to go into boxing, you can go and work the pads, you can hit the heavy bag, you can hit the speed bag, you can skip rope, build you a lot of self-confidence in yourself. But I tell people, when you go to the gym, don't say anything. Just go for a couple of days and watch the guy who's teaching defense. Watch the guy who's teaching the guys how to protect themselves, how to keep their hands up, keep their elbows in, and step to the right. Keep staying away from that right hand. That's the guy. Anybody can learn to punch, but you got to find a guy who's going to teach you defense so you can stay safe. And then you can box your whole life. I mean, listen, I'm 65. I can still box anybody in the world. I can protect myself. I know how to stay in range. It's just, we have to get the right information. And unfortunately, a lot of the great trainers that were in this world, like Eddie Fudge, Victor Valley, Gil Clancy, and so many other guys, is that they passed. And so these young kids came in and they're teaching a watered down version of boxing. And that's got to stop, because the quality of the game is different. And we have to teach well-rounded fighters. You got to, Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury, he's got to get into Fury's body to get Fury to drop his hands and then turn it over the top. You got to make a plan. You got to have a toolbox. You got to make adjustments. There's so much involved in the fight game. Everybody thinks it's 1, 2, 3. No, that's nothing. There's so much involved. And once you learn it, it becomes you. And there's nothing like it in the world to teach a kid how to hit the speed bag, how to hold his hands, how to protect himself, and to be able to fight. And then they don't even have to fight if they don't want to. You can use it as conditioning, exercise, go running. There's a lot of things to do.
Well, Jerry, I want to first of all thank you very, very much. I do have one more question. I lied to you. Don't hit me
What
with
the
that
hell?
left, all right? I see that left. And I always wanted to ask someone like you this question, that someone that grew up in the boxing world. Do you think MMA has hurt the game of boxing, the UFC fighting? And number two, do you like it or do you dislike it?
No, I don't think. I think for a while, boxing got to be where they were putting mismatches on, and there was no really good fights. They were all mismatches, and people weren't getting their fair shake. Along came MMA, and it kind of startled people, and they watched it a little bit. I think it's way too brutal. Although the referees are very close to the combat, it's dangerous. There's nothing like boxing. Boxing is a great sport. You wear gloves, you wear a headgear, you protect yourself, and you're safe. You're taught to be safe and to look out for yourself. Listen, I'm not going to begrudge them of what they do. They're making a lot of money. They're becoming stars. It's not for me. Not for me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I feel a lot safer being here rather than next to you right now.
Thank goodness. You're so right. I'll get my hands on you, bro. Let me get my hands on you, bro.
But on a serious note, I want to thank you very much for joining Frankly Speaking Sports tonight. It's great to have somebody I live right down the road from, that had an unbelievable career. And I'll tell you what, I grew up watching you, obviously, in Long Island, and want to thank you very much for all those times you allowed me to have watching you box.
Rick, I want to tell you thank you. I enjoyed your show, and hello to your fans. Anytime you need me, when there's a big fight coming up, you want me to help you break it down, just call me.
I would definitely do that, Jerry, and be safe out there, okay?
All right, my friend. Thank you.
All right,
Peace,
thank
Jerry.
you.
Peace.
That was Gerry Cooney, former heavyweight boxer. What a great, great, great interview. Let's take a quick station break and allow our stations to identify.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank. Hope you're enjoying the show. We talked a lot of Panthers today. We just had an unbelievable interview with former heavyweight boxer Gerry Cooney. Hope you enjoyed that as well. But as we look around the NFL right now and make sure that I got everything together here as we wrap it up, you got to look at the AFC East, and let's talk about New England, who currently has a 2-game lead now on the Buffalo Bills that lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday in overtime. But when you look at New England, I mean, you got to really be impressed. They're 9-4. You got New England. Like I said, you got Buffalo, then Miami, then the Jets. But when you look at this team, okay, this defense for New England is unbelievable. They're first right now in the AFC or in the NFL in points allowed, only allowing 15.4 points a game. And when you look at this team, yes, Mac Jones having a solid rookie year, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But when you look at this duo of Damian Harris at running back, and as I move my stuff around, and Ramondre Stevenson, they got a nice little running attack there. And you put that offense together, which doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and that defense together, they are definitely a contender here and should win the AFC East. You got to give Bill Belichick lots and lots and lots of props for what he's done with this team after 1 year of Tom Brady departing, and he's got this team back atop the AFC East, first place, 4 games left in the season. So unbelievable, great job by let me get back to the standings here, by the New England Patriots. Then if you look at the West, Kansas City holds a slim 1-game lead on the LA Chargers. And I'll tell you what, this LA Charger team is unbelievable. When I look at this LA Charger team and I look at Justin Herbert, look at these stats, folks, as I pull them up here. Herbert has thrown, there's only one quarterback in the NFL that has thrown for more yards, more touchdowns than Justin Herbert. Can you guess who that is? Right. The one and only Tom Brady. Herbert has 3,800 yards passing already. Still has 4 games left, folks. He has thrown 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. You got Austin Eckler, who's running the ball real well for LA. And then how about Keenan Allen and Michael Williams, the tandem at the wide receiver spot? Both of them should go within the next couple weeks over the 1,000-yard receiving mark. Just incredible, incredible. Williams has 7 touchdowns. Eckler out of the backfield receiving has 7 touchdowns. Then he has another 9 touchdowns rushing. This is a good Charger team. If you ask me who am I pulling for in the AFC, it's definitely the LA Chargers. I think they can go very, very far with this young team, this young quarterback in Justin Herbert. I mean, you look at these teams at top. Mac Jones, young quarterback. Justin Herbert, young quarterback. 2 great quarterbacks leading their teams. And I'd love to see the Chargers beat out the Kansas City Chiefs in the West. But if not, let's go ahead and get them at least making a wild card. And then you go down, Baltimore surprisingly leading the division over Cleveland. I'm sorry, let's go back. And over Cincinnati by 1 game. So the actual North is an unbelievable matchup here between 3 teams. Then you got the Steelers, who are at 6-6. But this could be anybody's team, league right now. You got Lamar Jackson, who's hurt now. We're going to see how that plays in a major role. So we'll see how that was. And then you got Andrews and Brown at receiver, also having an unbelievable year. So when you look at this team, they're third in the NFL in defense. They're allowing 21.8 points a game. They're allowing 407 yards per game. Rushing yards per game, 144. They're first in time of possession. So this is a good Baltimore team. And then you got Tennessee, who is getting Derrick Henry back. That'll help Ryan Tannehill out a lot. They have a 2-game lead on the Colts, who I believe play Tampa Bay, if I'm correct, next week. So that's the NFC. The AFC. When you look at the NFC now, you got the Dallas Cowboys, 3-game lead. I mean, what a team this team is. I mean, if they can just stay consistent and not beat themselves, the Dallas Cowboys can make a real big splash in the playoffs this year. You go to the West, the best team in football at 10-2, who are playing the Rams right now on Monday Night Football. That score, by the way, is 13-13. They got a 2-game lead on the Rams. Rams need to win tonight to cut it to 1 game, but what can you say about Kyle Murray and that team? And everybody keeps talking about Aaron Rodgers this, Aaron Rodgers that. Aaron Rodgers is washed up. All he's doing is leading his Green Bay Packers in the North to a 10-3 record right now. They're 8-2 in the conference. They're leading the North. And then you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should wrap this up pretty quickly. They are 10-3. They beat the Buffalo Bills yesterday in overtime. If you look at the playoffs right now, we just named the teams in the AFC: New England, Tennessee, Kansas City, and Baltimore. If the season ended today, the Chargers, the Colts, and the Buffalo Bills would make the playoffs. But we still got 4 games left, and there's still 3 other teams, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Denver, all with 7 wins, fighting for those last 2 wild card spots. And then if you look at the NFC, of course, you got the league leader, the division leaders, Cardinals, Packers, Tampa Bay, and Dallas Cowboys. Then you got the Rams, San Francisco, and Washington if it ended today. Now, Washington still has a tough road ahead of them. They got 6 wins. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 other teams with 6 wins. Minnesota, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and New Orleans. Then even Seattle and Carolina, who have been playing dismal, are only a game behind the last spot in the playoffs. I know, hard to imagine. But for you Carolina fans, don't get your hopes up. You got the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL in the last 4 games. You got the Bills, you got the Saints, and you got Tampa Bay twice, once home and once away. Ladies and gentlemen, I really, really hope you enjoyed our show this evening. We do appreciate all of you tuning in on all the different web channels and platforms and websites that we are on. Northeast Streaming Sports, Tobacco Road Sports Radio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, iHeart Radio, iTunes, just to name a few. We are all over the place, and we want to thank everybody so very much for continuing to support our show and continuing to either listen or watch our show as well. As far as Frankly Speaking Sports go, tomorrow night, 9 p.m., we'll be back. Same channels, same time. And then on Wednesday night, Frankly Speaking Panthers at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll break down the game between the Carolina Panthers and the Buffalo Bills coming up this weekend. On behalf of all of us at Frankly Speaking Sports, we want to wish everybody a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey!